Belarus's dictator, Lukashenko, has announced that he's not going to be running for his performative re-election next term. But is he serious? And what does it mean for Putin's domination and his favorite puppet? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this weird one. So, this is pretty weird, right? Because the longtime leader of Belarus, Lukashenko, has signaled that he might not even seek another term. Now, this is somebody who is effectively a puppet of Vladimir Putin, who claims to be, literally calls himself the last and only dictator in Europe. And in an interview with Time magazine said that he's talking about whoever replaces him, and he does not intend to seek another term in office, right? But he says, whoever replaces me, quote, should not break anything right away, but keep developing the country in order to avoid, quote, a revolutionary breakdown, which is a weird admission that basically, as soon as I leave, people are going to fucking lose it because they hate me, which is pretty funny. But the 70-year-old, a close ally of Vladimir Putin, has governed Belarus with an iron fist, and was re-elected in January to his 7th 5-year term. Now, there's the real question is, he said his son is not going to be his successor, which is crazy. And that he also told Time he was ready to step down in the last election, but changed his mind after the public demanded he remain in his post because they were not ready for him to go. Right. And of course, they were so not ready for him to go that after the 2020 election, there were nationwide protests and a sweeping security crackdown in which several hundred people were convicted of extremism and other political offenses. And nearly 1,200 of them are still behind bars. Right. And what's also, of course, interesting about old Belarus is that, he's been ramping up his military budget considerably. In fact, since 2022, right, the Belarusian military has been spending a lot of money, and is now almost 2% of the country's GDP, which is unusually actually low for a post-Soviet country. And some of this appears to be just gimmies, just cash to the cash-strapped Russian military. For example, he's purchasing Russian-made Sukhois, M-35 attack helicopters, armored personnel carriers, and hundreds of attack drones, which is fascinating because, again, these are all vehicles that the Russians likely manufactured, have little use on the battlefield in Ukraine, but are really valuable for the cash-strapped Russian economy. And buying hundreds of attack drones, by the way, Russia is burning something like, that's like a day or two worth of attack drones based on the current operational tempo on the front line. And what's also kind of interesting is that Lukashenko says, I won the 2020 election, which was untrue. He rigged it. And it was widely deemed fraudulent. Again, unprecedented street protests, brutal crackdown. And what's most important is that there are no opposition parties in Belarus. Every opposition politician is dead, jailed, or forced into exile. So it's unfair to say that he's winning an election. It's more a case of simply he's destroying all of his competition. And so, as one analyst points out, Lukashenko's system relies fully on the Kremlin for defense, right? But Lukashenko, because he's ramping up his spending, this analyst argues that Lukashenko doesn't think the Russian army will defend him in the case of some sort of mythical NATO aggression. Now, Lukashenko is probably not stupid. You don't live as long as he does in Putin's inner circle, while not understanding how to, stay alive. We're not understanding the real world. And he understands that NATO is not going to actually commit this aggression. It's likely his ramped up military spending is to subsidize the Russian army. But what's also, I think, more interesting, again, is the signal. Because Lukashenko is not going to step down unless he absolutely has to. And he may have to. He may have a health issue that mandates him to do it. But without having a successor who is clear and groomed, this is inviting chaos, right? Like he's literally opening the door for a succession fight among his inner circle, particularly saying it won't be my son. And he's almost certainly not doing that without having checked with Putin first. And Putin may have a successor in mind who he hasn't publicly disclosed yet. There may be some kind of jockeying that he wants to see done. It's unclear, but I think there may be a case of it won't really be clear until the next fake election happens and Putin's preferred candidate mysteriously wins in a landslide. But the takeaway, I think, to me at least, is that this may be a sign that Putin wants to also absorb Belarus into Russia, not in the literal sense, but to take what is already kind of a puppet state and get an even tighter grip on it, make it closer to Chechnya, where, you know, the Chechen dictator really does take orders from Putin, right? The notable exception is that Chechen forces did deploy and fight in Ukraine as Putin has needed manpower. Belarusian forces, though, have not. They have, you know, the Russian military has been allowed to use Belarus as a staging area. They've positioned troops there. Belarusian troops have massed on the border of Ukraine at times to as sort of a threat. But there hasn't actually been the Belarusian military fighting itself because, again, Lukashenko knows he is extremely unpopular and it's unclear that he would survive in power if he were to actually deploy the military into this meat grinder, particularly given, again, that there's no propaganda reason for him to do so. If you wonder where I get the energy to stream like this every day and also run triathlons and ultra marathons as I did literally last week, you know that my secret weapon is Strike Gum. It's veteran owned, made in the USA, and sugar free. It's got an energy drink's worth of caffeine in every single piece. So we're also having a buy one, get one on all single packs. So check it out at strikegum.com. And of course, as always, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, guys. Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot of videos. Huge thank you to, we just saw somebody join, get a membership. Thank you, Chris Hogfist. Appreciate you. Anyway, guys, I got to get out of here, man. This has been a really fun video. I really appreciate you joining me, but I got to eat lunch, man. It is 1 o'clock here, so I'll see you. See you in the next video. See you probably tomorrow. Cheers.